What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. In today's video, we are going to be covering something that admittedly is a couple days late here on the channel. I apologize. It was a wild weekend. In today's video, we of course are going to be taking a look at the EX Volume 9 update, and I'll be giving my opinions, for whatever those are worth at this point, on this update as to whether or not I feel like this was a positive update for the King of Fighters All-Star, or it was just more of the same. Pretty sure that you can all guess at this point exactly which one of those it's going to be. But before we go ahead and get into all of that and more, make sure if you guys haven't already done so, you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's just go ahead and get into today's topic. So we're going to talk about the EX Volume 9 update. We've already talked about the fighters and the battle cards. I feel like we did a pretty good job of pretty much summarizing exactly what was going on there. Those characters are OP, just like every other new banner. Who knew? But let's talk about the events, shall we? Because that is the one thing we have not had a chance to really talk about. We're going to dive right in, just talk about the Rush Dungeon here. So the Rush Dungeon is, logistically speaking, the exact same Rush Dungeon as we always get, just with different characters and different story. So you pretty much have the exact same type of layout. Everything here is pretty much the same. As far as what we got here, you are going to have a pretty standard exchange shop. The card set this time around is going to increase your attack, and then it increases soldier and agent fighters burn or shock damage by 100% for 20 seconds when a soldier and agent fighter lands a critical hit. Overall, pretty good little set for the characters that can use it if you're on a budget. I would definitely recommend that you at least pick one set of this up. I always recommend that you guys at least try to get one set. So overall, just try to make sure that you get one of these, because it is a good little budget set for the newer characters, maybe even like a Mary also. So, you know, it does have its uses. It's just not going to be better than any of the banner sets, right? But that's why it's a budget set. So definitely worth picking up at least one set. Otherwise, if you're somebody that just absolutely doesn't ever foresee themselves using it and doesn't care and isn't a collector, you could always use more fodder, right? So there's that. But other things in here, we do have hammers. You can always pick those up every day. That's something that I try to do towards kind of the end when I get all these taken care of. But other things in here, you have your badge fragments, which you'll need to craft your badges, in the crafting menu, which we'll talk about. So overall, the Rush Dungeon, not anything too dissimilar from what we normally see. So that is going to be the Rush Dungeon. We also are going to have this guy here. Now this is going to be the tower. Obviously, I can't play the tower. I still am of the opinion that they need to figure out a way to start allowing us to use past characters, at least one or two past characters, to play these towers for people who don't plan on investing on a banner. I do feel like this is kind of ridiculous at this point that we're still seeing these towers this way. We have had randomly, like once or twice maybe, the ability to use other fighters outside of just the fighters on the banner. I think that that was the case at some points, but I could be mistaken. Maybe it's just wishful thinking on my part. But either way, I digress. When it comes to these are usually going to be something to where you want to at least clear up to the tier 27, 28, but obviously you need to have the characters, so there's that. But definitely, if you have the ability to play the tower, if you've already made the investment on the banner, then you want to play through the tower, get the items in there. I just wish that they would find a way to let everybody partake in those things, especially when these updates are so sparse on actual gameplay. On actual stuff that you're playing and not just grinding through and just letting your game autoplay or whatever the case may be. Because as we go through here, you're going to notice outside of the Rush Dungeon, which again, you just autoplay at a certain point after the first clear normally, there's not a lot of stuff you're actually playing in this update. So it would have been nice if that would have been the case, but I digress. So when it comes to the crafting event, we'll talk about that real quick. So the crafting event, pretty much structurally the same as normal. You're going to have your two little badges here this time around, so that's where you're going to use those items that you get from the exchange shop we just talked about. Other things in here, of course, you're going to have this guy because it's in every crafting event, and then you have the stones, which are the big gets here. So overall, the stones this time around, if we take a look, this is going to be your soldier and agent stones. This one here is going to increase your soldier or agent and agent fighter's critical rate, and then the next one is going to be critical damage on the moonstone. So pretty much standard as far as what we've been seeing on any of these types of crafting events. The critical stones are always going to be big for your characters if you're planning on pulling them. So that is pretty much what you got there. Just make sure that you try to pick up all these little guys in the various areas they are available, so that way you can go ahead and make sure that you get this. So with that said, talking about the next one here, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the fighter growth support roulette. Now this is just a new player roulette. This is really largely something that's only going to be very useful or interesting to people who are brand new to the game or intermediate. Veterans don't really have any use for this, but at the same time, it is nice to have extra resources. So make sure that if you are somebody that falls into those categories that could find this of use, that you go ahead and take advantage, because these things, especially some of these higher tier ones, are very useful and you'll eventually need those quite a bit. So with that said, if you're a new player, a bit of future farming there maybe if you want to use your bingos on those, because those are very useful in the long run. But I digress yet again. A lot of digressions in this video. So let's talk about the Lucky Spring Bingo. So the bingo here this time around it's interesting. I don't really like these ticket bingos as much. I find these to be a little less satisfactory. But overall, basically, you just use these tickets to spin on this thing. These tickets here, we'll talk about how you're going to acquire them. The rewards this time around, you can tell that they're getting ready to implement something to where we're going to be using these souls, or these things are going to be at least more useful in other places. So we'll have to wait and see what that is going to bring with the March update. They talked about that in the dev note. This is going to be one of the things they address, so time will tell. But overall, that's pretty much what we got there as far as those go. The other rewards here are pretty much standard when it comes to any of these bingos, but basically the big get here, if for everybody, is going to be this guy right here, because if you are pulling on the banners, yet again, you want the stones and you need these in order to make them. So anybody pulling is going to definitely want to try to prioritize that. You get more of your badge fragments. Again, we just talked about where to use those. And then the big item here, the final item, is the Spring Lucky Box. The Spring Lucky Box, it has rubies in it, but it also has all this other stuff. So the chances of you actually hitting anything in here of note are pretty low to begin with, and then the amount of rubies in here are fairly low as well. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys and tell you that this is the greatest bingo we've ever had. In fact, I would say that this is kind of a weak bingo, just my opinion, but I really don't see much of anything here that interests me. And overall, you know, you have your different tiers that you can go through on here, get your rewards, but at the end of the day, I don't feel like this is going to be necessarily the best bingo we've ever had. And I still, like I said, don't necessarily care too much for these ticket bingos, but again, it is what it is. Now, when it comes to the bingo event though, I want to talk about how you get some more of those tickets, or how you get those tickets in general. So we'll kind of go over here to the event missions first, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So right here, summoning a fighter one time, including free, gives you 2 of those things. So that's going to be where you're going to pick some of these up right here. So that's really nice. But then another big way that you're going to do this, the primary way you're going to do this, is you're going to do the World Drop event. Now the World Drop event, if you guys are wondering where to pick up the mystery boxes for this, you just click on the fireball, it tells you where to get it. Like right here, you're going to be able to pick them up from League Match, so you'll be able to get those things from playing in the Battle tab. Otherwise, the Dungeon tab, I always recommend the Battle Card Dungeon, whichever one of the tiers you can grind comfortably, that's where I would be. So that's kind of where I would tell you guys to grind on this thing. But if you're ever wondering where to pick the World Drop items up, that's where you get them. Now, as far as what you're getting from the World Drop, if we take a look here, I'm gonna scroll all the way down. I have a lot of stuff. I believe I have some boxes in here. Yes. So the boxes this time around, as you guys can see, you are going to have your fighter growth support roulette tickets, which is something. But overall, this thing is also going to have the Lucky Spring Bingo tickets, which is pretty much the primary source of where you're going to get the tickets if you're wanting to grind on that board and you're wanting to try and get as many of those things as possible. And overall, it is as a World Drop event setup, it's fine, it's pretty good, but overall the World Drop just kind of doesn't hit right because there isn't necessarily the greatest rewards in it, so it doesn't really feel like there's a big reason to be doing it. At the end of the day, I feel like you probably just save on your skip tickets and your AP, unless you just desperately want something from that bingo that you need to be playing it multiple times on those boards. But overall, I don't really see the bingo nor the world drop event being all that great. Just not my thing, and not something that I feel like is going to be overly rewarding to the point where it's worth noting and worth sitting here and singing its praises. So, just my opinion. It's okay. It's not anything super spectacular, though. We do have an event codex, of course, because we have new characters. So basically, for building up the characters, you get the corresponding rewards. And when it comes to the stones this time around, we have an increase to our burn damage dealt by 20% for 5 seconds when an extreme fighter lands an active skill on the circle stone. On the square stone, you are going to increase your EX fighter's active skill damage. And then the final one, the hexagon stone here, is going to increase your critical damage. And that's what you get there. The other rewards in here, obviously, again, you want these because you want to get those stones if you're building the characters properly. And then finally, you can pick up prime memory shards for your favorite character from the banner. So there is that. So that is going to be the codex. Not much to write home about there. And the stones are pretty much just a mix and match reprint of other stones that, you know, just might have same effect, different stone, right? So the stones are pretty standard for the most part. They're good stones though. Overall, this time around, all 3 of them are actually pretty decent. So good stuff on the stones. If you want to pick up the characters, they're all pretty good. So there is that. Other things in here though, that's going to pretty much do it for the primary events. We do have a login bonus that we're going to talk about briefly here. It's not anything that's going to be that interesting, but this is going to be your login bonus. As you guys can see, you're going to be able to get more of these guys here, so that's always nice if you're wanting to craft those badges. But outside of that, otherwise, the rest of the stuff is nice to have, but not really, again, worth writing home about. So that pretty much does it for most of the events. Again, sparse on gameplay stuff. But as far as gameplay goes, there is one other event we can't talk about today. That is going to be the new time attack. The new time attack is very controversial because time attack veteran, as they're calling it, is very difficult unless you have some of the newer characters maxed out. This is probably by design. Netmarble probably, and I still believe, is trying to find new and interesting ways to force you to have to max out your characters. And I do, mark my words, believe that the new content that they're teasing, whatever that ends up being, and I don't expect it to be anything super big, whatever that ends up being, I guarantee you they're going to require you or want you or push you to having to max out these newer characters. That's just my opinion. That's me reading tea leaves. That's me just using my future sight here. But I honestly believe that that is going to be what they're going to do, especially considering the state of time attack right now with the new one that they do have out. It's not currently in the game as of the making of this video. I believe it's only on weekends, if I remember correctly, that they said that was going to run. But with that said, it is very difficult for some people. To veterans like myself, it's super easy. It's like, you know, I just go in there with Shun'ei and it's done. But outside of that, for other people that may not have maxed out EX characters, it's going to be a bit of a drag. So that is unfortunate. However, I do think that the simplest solution would be to just have 2 separate time attacks open on the weekends. For people who just can't play through that one, I think that would make the most sense. It would probably be the best middle ground, and it gives everybody a little bit of something there. It gives veterans a little bit extra, and it gives the ability for the newer players to still be able to collect their daily rubies and so on and so forth in time attack without having to sit there and worry about breaking their phone out of frustration, right? So there is that. So that is pretty much going to be that for all the different events. We'll talk about the battle passes briefly here, and then we'll get out of here and talk about our final thoughts. But overall, what the battle passes are standard for battle passes as far as battle passes are concerned. This is just going to have pretty much some stuff in here that you'll want to build up your characters, but then the big gets are of course going to be your summon tokens for the new EX banner, as well as 6,000 rubies, which is a really, really nice amount. You know, if you're wanting to spend money on the game and one of these characters is your favorite, and you want to spend some money or need to spend some money because of the rates, then this is going to be a pretty good option for you. You can pick up quite a bit with this on the banners if you want to, between the tokens and the rubies. So if you're wanting the characters and they are one of them is your favorite character, then just go ahead, pick that up, and you'll be in pretty good shape. If you're anybody else, I do not recommend it. Anybody who doesn't plan on heavily investing on the banners, this is only for people that plan on heavily investing in the banner, in my opinion, with any of these types of battle passes. So if you're not in that category, don't buy it. Simple as that. This one here is going to be $4.99. Overall, you get one multi a piece on the banners, and then you get some really decent items for the price, and then you get 600 rubies. This is definitely worth it if you're somebody that just wants to spend a little bit of money on the game. Maybe you want to be able to pull something on the banner, but you don't want to spend your rubies, or you want to mitigate the amount of rubies you need to spend, then this is a pretty good little one. All these little $5 ones, I always say the same thing. If you have the ability to, they're usually worth it. I mean, the multi a piece for the new banners for the cards and the fighters respectively is worth it alone. Then you got the rest of the stuff in here, which is really nice. So overall, I think that you could spend your $5 worse ways, but at the same time, it comes down to how you feel about it. But you also do get the ability to clear the rush dungeon if that is something that you so desire to do. But you guys know my opinion, I don't really like doing that necessarily, but I also have a PC with the PC client, so I can just set it on auto and go. But that is where it's at. So when it comes to this new update, again, we've already talked about the characters and the cards. I'm not going to go in those today. Overall, it's an update. It's a small step in the right direction, but it's still just another update. I very much so feel like the people that have voted on my community poll this week, if you guys go over to my community tab, you'll see almost 600 people or so at this point have voted on this thing, and the vast majority of people are pretty much blah. they're blah to this whole thing. Nobody's really all that overly excited from what I can tell. There's not, by the same token, that many people that are super upset by the update, but it's just kind of another update in the King of Fighters All-Star, right? And that's kind of the problem that we've been talking about ad nauseum for months now. You know, it's just the same content over and over and over again, and we're not really seeing much variance. And with the dev handbook that we got a few weeks ago, there is hope that there is going to be change coming very soon. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I'm eyeballing that 3/22 date as being something that might change things just a little bit, or we might get something more exciting. But until then, I'm kind of in a turtle mode. I'm not really planning on pulling much on this banner. Overall, while the character, like, I would love to have Leona. Don't get me wrong. I really like Leona. I enjoy Leona quite a bit. And Luong's cool. I don't have a problem with Luong. I just prefer Leona. But with that said, I'm not going to go in on a banner that I don't have the ability to guarantee down the road that I can max out a character if I'm not going to plan on just going all in and maxing them out while they're available, because we don't have generics still. So I'm not going to be able to just go in here and just use up all my rubies and know that, okay, well, I might have an A3 character that I can eventually make an A5 and then an A6, etc., because we don't have the ability to do that right now. So whenever you decide to invest on a banner, you have to decide, okay, am I investing on this all the way? Am I going to the A5? Or is this character one that, you know, I can live with them being under-leveled, whatever the case may be? With the fact that we have new content on the horizon, apparently, according to Netmarble, I'm kind of skittish on trying to get A2, A3 characters and just live with that, because I almost get the feeling that they're going to, again, want us to max these characters out in order to be able to properly play some of that new content. So I'm being kind of cautious right now, especially with this banner, because right after this we might see those updates, and chances are what's ever on that banner that comes after this for EX Volume 10 might be tailor-made towards that stuff, or at least really good in that stuff. And I kind of want to wait and see if maybe there's an EX Terry, an EX Rock, an EX Mai even. King, of course, is the biggest one for me, but, you know, I think she's a little bit further out. But there's a lot of characters that are personal favorites that I would rather wait for. And right now, this just isn't the banner for me, even though it is obviously one of the greatest banners we've had, because it's the newest banner we've had. So that's how power creep works. But anyway, that's my opinion. I think it's just kind of a whatever update. I mean, it's there, but it isn't anything I'm overly excited about. If I'm being completely honest, I'm more excited for Street Fighter Duel and the King of Fighters Survival City right now, to be honest with you guys. I'm enjoying King of Fighters Survival City quite a bit, and I played Street Fighter Duel Briefly, I played the non-global version about a year ago, but obviously it's tough to play when you can't read anything, so, but I was enjoying the game for what it was. Some people don't like idle games and things like that, but I personally have no issue with them. I don't have all day to be living on my phone and playing these games all the time, so, you know, it's kind of nice to have those little games that you can just kind of pick up and play and then just put them down and not have to worry about it as much. But, you know, I'm getting way off topic. I'm gonna get out of here, you guys. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think about this update. I get the feeling, just based on the community poll yet again, that I kind of know where you guys stand on this, and trust me, I'm kind of right there with you. And yeah, we're just kind of waiting eternally for some sort of big update in this game. It'll happen eventually, I guess. There's other games to play in the meantime. But anyway, guys, that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think about all this. Like, share, and subscribe on your way out. And until the next one, you all take care. Peace.
Continue.